Hello there, everyone, and welcome to the halfway point here in the Ottercar AI Racing Series. Here at the Lanier Raceway today in Brazelton, Georgia. We're heading down south here today for a bit of good old fashioned grassroots racing at, let's say, maybe a little bit less of a prestigious and famous track. NASCAR's Xfinity Series, which I believe was the Grand National Series back in the day, came here a few times, but has not hosted any particularly major sporting events before. And of course, as we all know, Ottercar is just the most prestigious racing event of all time, so we're doing this track a favor, really. But that said, it does look like qualifying is just about in the books, so let's go down trackside and take a quick look at our starting lineup here tonight. Starting on pole here tonight in the number 27. Oh, no.
No,
That's not
776.
correct.
What's going on? Technical difficulties, folks.
Uh-oh.
Uh,
Well, it looks like our timing and scoring sheet is just flat out wrong, so we're gonna have to rely entirely on our driver's paint schemes here tonight because, yeah, no, all of the cars' numbers and names are wrong on our timing and scoring and sheet. That's a bit of an issue.
okay, yeah.
Um, how
Hang
did we
on, is
mess
it?
that one up?
Yeah, it's pretty wrong.
The numbers are right, but the names are wrong.
Have the numbers been mixed up with the paint schemes?
I'm assuming that's what happened. I'm not quite sure how we
Because
pulled
look,
that
like,
one off, but
776 is on
yeah,
blue and yellow?
yeah,
Who is.
that's Valnar,
That's
and
Valnar's
Valnar
car.
drives the 776.
But
But
not the
uh-huh.
name. Uh, oh,
All
yep.
right. Okay. Numbers not important, or actually names not important. Well, we're just going off the numbers here today because the numbers are right.
We hope that you all remember your special numbers. We may need to consult the race gods after this race to make sure exactly who wins. Thankfully, I believe the live timing system we have is still working, but the names are out of whack.
Yep. So starting on pole here today in the 776 machine is Valnar, who I guess is now Felix Marais. In the number 8 machine is Octave, I want to say, isn't
Octave, I
it?
think,
I,
was
I
A.
think. No, Piper is the 8
Piper's A?
machine.
Oh, shoot. We're doing really well.
We're doing really well. We're names going out the window. All that's important here is the numbers.
Number,
Starting
that's
in
right.
third place is the number 12. Fourth place is the number 621 machine.
Which we do remember as Humongous, but however, Humongous has been transplanted in the body of the number 25 machine, who belonged to somebody.
Sixth place is the 330 that was formerly Lake. Seventh place is Dragon Space Queen, except not really, the number 420 driver. Eighth place to the driver of the number 3 machine. Ninth place to the number 69 entry. 10th to the 117 machine. 11th to the 217 machine. 12th to the 38. 13th to the 666 machine. 14th to the number 1. 15th to the 369 machine. 16th to the number 21. 17th to the 11. 18th to the number 717. 19th to the 429 machine. 20th to the 93. 21st to the 37. 22nd to the 7. 23 to the 0. And finally, rounding out the field, the number 53 machine. Things are all sorts of topsy-turvy here tonight, but that does not matter because we are going green flag racing here at the Lanier Raceway. Drivers already fanning out 2 and sometimes even 3 wide back in the back there. That was a little bit scary to see, but it looks like everyone is getting themselves mostly figured out here.
Yeah, Felix Murray establishing a pretty dominant lead already in the first 2 laps of the race, almost a second ahead of everybody else.
Felix Murray, quote unquote.
Oh, of
All of
course.
these drivers, of course, are imposters. No one told me it was April Fool's today, but I guess it is because everyone just kind of switched their transponders around. The cars are right, the numbers are right, but the names are wrong.
Are you sure we're not doing this on stream on a Friday? Because it looks like Freaky Friday from the booth here, Jim.
I would hope it's not Freaky Friday, but I could be mistaken. I'm just going to stay for the record now. For the sake of our standings, we will be awarding points based on paint scheme and not driver name. So our current race leader, if they were to win the race, would be Valnar in the 776, because that is supposed to be Valnar, not Felix Murray. We are not awarding points to imposter drivers, we're awarding points to the cars.
This is true. Speaking of cars, seems like everyone in the race seems to be doing pretty contestedly around each other, but Valnar in that 776 is taking a strong and firm lead. We may need to wait for a miracle, just like the other day, where who was it? Drop Table Roster? No.
Peak Comedy.
Peak Comedy
was...
versus August the Bat were duking it out and caused a calamity at the very last 3 laps or something. When drivers start to lap other drivers, we'll see if that makes any difference to the standings or not.
It probably will. There's a lot to unpack here, needless to say. Currently spectating the number 93 of Bloody Wolf, or according to the timing and scoring sheet, Thirds. So I guess Thirds is driving that all-red Buttcucker entry. Who I guess Thirds is a Ferrari fan now, because that is actually the Team Ferrari, like F1 team's red on that number 93 machine, and I guess Thirds is a Ferrari fan now. I wish she told me that before.
I can kind of make out everyone's paint schemes from each other, but unfortunately only if you have decorated your machine as brightly and luridly as possible. For instance, I can see Lishak's 429 machine not being piloted by Lishak in this case, but just as much of an eyesore with that crying, piloted by Ben Dover in this episode of Wacky Races. But this is the sort of thing that we love to see in the race thing.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dragon Space Queen has proposed that she'll sit on you if you make me win. That is a direct quote.
Okay.
The offer stands.
I'm currently trying to commentate this race here. I have more important things to think about. Like that driver of the number 3 machine, apparently our previous race winner, Saris of Iron, is piloting that number 3 entry that is supposed to be Third's car. You know what I want to know? The sheer, anatomical differences between the drivers we have in this series. Like, how did we fit Dragon Space Queen into Zoe's car? Like, there's a pretty considerable height difference here between these two people. Same could be said for Valnar, who is now in Lake's car. I am pretty sure Valnar had a special seat designed for him to help him drive these well-in modified cars, and I don't know, I guess he modified Lake's in time for this race. Everyone was so in on the bit that they were willing to modify their cars to fit the various drivers into them.
That's
and
right.
We somehow missed all of it.
Valnar's pedals have been retrofitted into his car. They are approximately 30 times as long as they are in a usual car, just to make sure he can actually reach the pedals. He has to apply, I think, 4 times his body weight just to add the impetus to push that pedal down. But we applaud his efforts, and he's really putting in the Lord's work.
Yeah.
You can barely see over the steering wheel.
Humongous is apparently driving Maroon's car here tonight, and Humongous is now in the 2nd position. Unfortunately, the scoring would be going to Maroon because it's Maroon's car. But Humongous is doing a pretty solid job of wheeling this car around. And actually, it looks like the 621 machine is in 5th, so Humongous is actually battling for position with his own car, driven by another driver. As we take it 3 wide here through the corner, that could have been pretty risky, but everyone seems to have navigated it well enough.
Seems like racing, despite the mix-ups and despite the rapid last-minute driver name changes, which everyone just legally put through, I suppose, we are seeing some pretty solid racing here tonight. Even though Felix Murray leads by a 5-second gap, we really do need some calamitous act to strike down upon him to really change the outcome of this race. But for now, the real battles are happening in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and so on. All the way down to 9th place. There's only a second between all of these drivers, and then that's it.
Yeah, there is certainly quite a lot of battling going on throughout this field, so there is a very real chance we could be getting a caution. That we do still have a good 50 laps left in this race for something to go horribly wrong, and we have seen that sometimes that will happen even in the last 5 laps of the race. It's not over until it's over.
Yes, as the field crowds up with each other, it's probably going to increase the risk of a caution, as every driver is kind of, as the faster ones are held up by the slower ones, and you know, all of these factors.
Especially with lap traffic very much coming into play here. August coming way down the track. I think he overdrove the corner there, almost making contact with Pete Comedy. Of course, these two drivers not actually August and Pete Comedy, but they're still driving as if the rivalry they formed in the previous race is still there. They're the two very regularly coming close to making contact with one another.
Yes, there were some hot words in that pit lane after the last race, especially because it cost them both extremely dearly. I don't believe either of them finished.
And trouble for whoever is in the one machine. Drop Table Roster driving the one machine. He got shoved up into the wall. The caution did not come out for it, but that definitely looks like it messed him up a little bit. But just about everyone in the field, aside from like our leaders, are very closely battling one another here. It's a little bit chaotic, to say the least.
A little bit of brake checking from Octave, trying to stop the 3 wides around every corner, but it seems like, oh gosh, it's really dicey around this 0.37 mile track. This is nothing but turn, folks. Brake,
nothing but turn, and nothing but a whole lot of chaos. Faster cars trying to navigate their way through the lap traffic, but there really just is not a lot of room to make things happen here.
This really do remind me of driving on Charleston highways in the dead of night. This is exactly how it goes. No turn signals, no nothing. These really are just some really ratty drivers who don't care about no one else.
That's true, but I mean, you gotta not care about your competitors to win. Of course, sportsmanship is always of the essential here in Ottercar and in racing in general, but ultimately you're here to win one way or another, and you've got to sometimes do things that look bad for you in order to make that happen.
It seems like our timing system is kind of broken for a second, and there it's back now again. But as you can see, it seems like the dominance of Felix Murray is only increasing. The number of drivers that are a lap down just goes up and up, and there's another thing.
Out for, I'm not quite sure what happened there. That was the 217 of Lake, now up on her lid for our first caution of the race.
As she would say, that seems like a skill issue.
That does seem like a skill issue. I do remember that when Ottercar first started, during the initial getting together and organizing of this league, that Lake told me in person that her racing line was mid. And it looks like that held true here, as that 217 machine belonging to Felix Murray got just shoved up into the wall and sent up and over on its lid here tonight.
Did that look like a forced error to you, or was that pure driver error? I could not tell you.
There was a little bit of both there, I believe. Lake did kind of unfairly get shoved up into the wall there, but you know what can you do sometimes? When you're going 3 wide at a track this small, sometimes that's just how it folds out.
That's how the cookie crumbles. August the Bat deftly dodging around the left side. Same with Space Dragon Queen, Sarah Saviron. A number of other drivers seem to avoid that, but the thirds in the Ferrari machine, who I don't believe is actually thirds, seem to get caught up in that mess more than anyone, as they couldn't find a way to navigate around it.
Yeah, it does look like thirds took the toe to pit lane. I'm not entirely sure what happened to thirds. I am looking back through our records, and it does not look like thirds had any incidents there, so I'm not quite sure what happened. Trying to take a look back here.
Yeah, there
There
she is.
there she is in the number 93.
This, of course, is actually not thirds, but as you can see here, she's cut off from drivers on the right and the left, so I believe she is just stuck there until... Oh, the pace car goes right through her.
Oh yeah, the pace car. The pace car does not care. It does look like that maybe thirds for some reason towed back to pit lane, but regardless, we are back green flag racing here with about 40 laps to go, a little bit more than that. And we're already taking it 3 wide back in the back. That was a little scary to see, but everyone's keeping things going safely for the most part. No one's died yet, but there's plenty of time for that to happen again.
It seems like Felix Murray's dominant lead has kind of been cut down, but we'll see how quickly he can re-establish it. It already looks to be going his way, this race, but it's being contested by the number 12 machine, who I believe belong to Halo, and the 330 machine.
Whoever's driving that number 717 of Peak Comedy is not afraid to drive it like Peak Comedy actually was. That is Madcap, it looks like, in the number 717 machine, making some very ballsy moves here, but thankfully not wrecking the 69 machine, but he very much had the opportunity to. But it looks like he is going to back off a little bit. He's currently in the 11th position, so he is trying to battle for a top 10 spot here, and he might just be able to get it happening.
Maroon overtakes them on the right side, but then is forced back to go 3 wide around every corner. There's just so many cars on so little track here, folks. You don't really have much option. We seem to see a sort of peloton forming behind the main 4, I want to say maybe 3 racers out in front. They have a 2.5 second lead, but everyone after that seems to drop down pretty harshly.
Yeah, and even if they're not necessarily vying for a lead here, these drivers are giving it everything they've got every single lap, making some slightly terrifying moves, but that is just the joys of small town racing. There is nobody sanctioning here to try and win $2 bazillion. It's just a group of guys, gals, and monsters all trying to vie for the fame and prestige of a fake race on the internet.
I was about to comment on Sarah Saviron's continued bad luck after her surprise win last race, but no, that is in fact the thirds machine. That is the number 3, who is 14 laps down. I'm not sure exactly where she came off the track, but she pitted and now she's slowly worked her way back in.
Slowly but surely. Looks like if Sarah Saviron can't keep her own car on the track, then she also can't keep Third's car on the track either. I'm sure that Thirds is not happy about this whole driver swap situation, because that number 3 machine is probably the lowest down in the field as it's ever been in the Ottercar racing series.
This is unfortunate for the many drivers who were caught up in that portion, both through driver error, being caught behind it and being unable to avoid it. Even though they weren't involved in an actual accident, they were still held back quite dramatically, especially by the narcissistic and nasty racing officials they have here at this track. They say, no, you go back to the back of the pack.
Of course. Throughout all the chaos, we actually have had some pretty considerable changes in position. Currently, the number 53 machine, formerly owned by Stick, now currently being driven by Pav, is our biggest mover here today, up 9 positions from where he qualified. And looks like he is on track to be hopefully gaining some more throughout this race. But wow, I mean, there is no breathing room anywhere on this track. Everything everywhere is just cars, cars, and more cars at a dangerously high speed.
Cars, cars, more cars, and nothing but brake, turn, accelerate, brake, turn, accelerate. For 85 laps on this I believe one of the shortest tracks on this Ottercar season. Look at that. There's Felix Murray finally eking his lead out in front of number 330. But number 330 is actually hobbled by Dragon Space Queen's machine on the inside, which is the shorter lane to take. However, cannot seem to get past her at all.
Dragon Space Queen not actually driving that 37 machine, but probably having a bit of a crisis between, do I block my teammate that is not driving the correct car, or do I block the car of my teammate that's not being driven by the right person?
Yes, we're all having an identity crisis in this day's race. As
We
it
really
stands,
are.
the top three is number 330, number 776, number 621, who is piloted usually by Humongous, but Med, who has had a terrible string of races in the early season, has done fantastically in this job, in this machine for this race.
Sometimes that's how it goes. Sometimes you just need to get behind the seat of a different car and things kind of click for you. Be it on a mechanical level or sometimes just a psychological level. Sometimes just being in a different vehicle can do things to you mentally that like just help you perform better. And it looks like Med is on pretty much the best run she's ever been on here in the Ottercar Racing League behind that number 621 machine.
Med is number 12.
No.
No, Med is driving the 61.
Yeah, Med is driving the 621 machine.
Bear with us, folks. We're all struggling.
We're all
in this day and age.
collectively struggling at this very funny prank the drivers pulled on us without consent.
They didn't tell us.
They didn't tell us.
They never tell us. They never tell the gang what the cool shit they're doing is.
They don't care. They're just here to make our lives harder here as the Ottercar commentators. And another 3-wide situation. That was almost pretty bad for the 420 machine. That could have very much ended up with him planted in the wall, but thankfully he managed to keep it off there. And another 3-wide immediately after that. Thirds, or whoever's driving third's car, I believe that was Sarah Survivor, and almost running the 12 machine up into the wall, and then almost coming back down and smashing into the 420 machine.
Felix Murray and Valnar or whoever are driving those machines are really duking it out first place. There is only 0.1 second between either of them, and they seem to be held up by the many, many drivers that are 2 laps, 1 lap, 14 laps down. It's almost impossible to call.
Yeah, these drivers currently, our 2 race leaders are pinned up to the high line, which is widely seen as not a preferable place to be here in the typical short tracks here on iRacing, and the 766 machine has now been blocked by the 38, who is a few laps down, so that's going to definitely help the lead of that 330 machine. Of course, like I said, I will be awarding the points based on car and not on driver, so Lake would be our race winner points-wise for this whole race, considering that she manages to pull this off with 4 laps to go. She has a pretty steady lead, but it is just chaos here behind her.
There's absolute melee of people trying to eke out one position here, one position there. In the last 3 laps to go, there is no shame in going out for it. I believe we may have cursed Med by talking about her, because she's dropped 2 places since we mentioned her. The driver Med for the 621 machine, but seems to be slipping into a comfortable 5th or 6th position.
Yeah, and it looks like The 330 machine is going to take the win by a comfortable 2-second lead. Oh, and trouble
Oh,
back in the back.
just on the final lap.
That was the 770, I believe, that just got spun there. I can't even find them on the timing and scoring sheet. What just happened there?
Well, that.
That certainly was a finish. I'm desperately trying to find what just happened there.
It looked to be Sarah Saviron, the driver Sarah Saviron in the 71 machine. We're figuring it out.
We're figuring it out. So it
There
looks
he
like
goes.
Madcap checked
Oh,
up, or the 38 machine checked up, and the 776 just had nowhere to go there.
let's get another look at that on the 776.
Yeah, that was quite the incident. The 776 machine got involved with that 38 there on the final. Oh, it looks like actually the 38 got brake checked by the 420 machine.
Ooh,
That certainly mixed things up quite a bit. That's not what I thought happened. Let's ride on board with the 776 machine and just get a look at whatever happened there. We're on board with the 776 now, so they're riding up behind the 38 machine, and it looks like the 38 got brake checked, maybe? Or no, the
oh,
38 just made contact, and
it was a domino effect there. I think there was one brake too hard, 38 braked another like extra hard. 7076 had nowhere to go, no time to brake. Ended up swerving to avoid an incident, went straight into the wall of thirds, the body.
that's definitely not how that driver wanted the race to end, because the 776 that was comfortably vying for second pretty much the entire race has now finished in the 7th position.
Yeah, seeing that white flag for second last lap can be a big moment for drivers. That is your indicator. That is the last chance you have. Oh, and a little bit
It
of
looks like
traffic here.
the drivers also had an issue going into pit lane to return to their pit stalls. This is a fairly tricky pit lane for what it's worth, but
I believe
wow,
someone had an incident trying to enter the pit lane and ended up blocking the rest of it.
seems so. But that said, let's go take a look at our race results here at the Lanier Raceway for the halfway point of Ottercar. So we're gonna ignore names here. Again, we are scoring based on the driver numbers because those are what's actually correct. The names are not right, but the numbers are right.
Numbers are right, the paint schemes are right.
Yeah.
That's what we're going off.
So our winner here tonight in the number 330 machine would be Lake, followed by the 420 of Oh You Know, the 12 of Pav in third. Fourth goes to Humongous in the 621. Fifth would be Maroon in the number 25. Sixth would be Zoe in the 666 machine. Seventh would be Valnar in the 776 after that last lap incident. Eighth would be Piper in the number 8 machine. Ninth would be Ben Dover in the 69. 10th would be Sarah Saviron in the 117. 11th would be, I don't remember who's in the 21 off the top of my head. 12th would be Med in the number 1 machine. 13th would be the number 7 entry. 14th would go to the number 53. 15th would go to Drop Table Roster in the 369. 16th would go to the 717 machine of Peak Comedy. 17th would go to Madcap in the 38 machine. 18th would go to the 37 machine of Dragon Space Queen. 19th would go to Halo in the 0. 20th would go to the number 11 machine. 21st would go to the 93 of Bloody Wolf. 22nd to the 429 machine of Is Humongous the 420?
429 is Lishak.
Lishak. Oh, yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
So, 22nd to Arvo Sobrov in the 429. 23rd place to the number 3 machine,
Being thirds.
being thirds, of course. And then finally, rounding out the field, Felix Moret in the 217 machine. So, that was a bit of a doozy for the halfway point of the Ottercar Racing League. We are definitely going to have a bit of a drivers meeting with the drivers of this series and tell them no more funny pranks.
No
They're
more
not
funny
epic,
pranks.
and you just made my life a whole lot harder for calculating the standings. So thank you, drivers, and we will see you all next Saturday at the Langley Speedway for round 7. And unfortunately, it will be just me yet again.
Yes, I would like to give a massive shout out to IC Otter for putting me up in this wonderful racing booth with his 2 rodents, many little fellas, and no aircon. He's holding me hostage. Please, I need to see a lawyer. I need to get out. Please, no. Okay, no. It's all good, and I'd like to thank his entire setup for doing IC racing. This is a big deal for a lot of us. This is just a wonderful, fun, silly little thing. I didn't give a damn about NASCAR before doing any of this, and this is very fun, very entertaining, and I'm sure we'll see it all through. I can't wait to go back to watching this shit at 2 in the morning Australia time, and it's gonna be hard going back, but I'll see you guys next week for
Next
it.
week.
If I'm not fucking jet lagged to hell, because that probably will happen.
That probably will happen.
Oh
but-
yeah.
And of course, thank you, Sark, for joining me in the booth for the past 3 weeks. It has been a blast hanging out with you. And I will say, having a co commentator is a very, very fun experience. And I definitely would love to do more co commentary stuff in the future. I don't know how would we be able to do it realistically, aside from the time difference, but you would also need to own a copy of iRacing.
I would also have about 500 milliseconds of lag, as I usually do. But yes, that is part of the Twitch experience. I could not possibly commentate it as well as you already do. That means I'm shirking responsibility. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's been a good time.
it's been a good time. And of course, thank you all for coming out and watching. I will see you all next week at the Langley Speedway. Have a good afternoon, race fans.